Part 67. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 661. Isn't our family going to marry the Sidhu family? Guyan said, brother, you should send Miss Ning off, it's more sincere. Gu Liang couldn't help laughing, aren't you being sincere when you send her off? Guyan quickly waved his hands, no, what if she misunderstands me and thinks I want to marry her? That woman is too difficult to serve, and only you, brother, can subdue her. Me? Gu Liang smiled and shook his head. Guyan was stunned, and blurted out, brother, you don't plan to marry her. Let me ask you, what's my last name? Gu Liang said. Guyan felt baffled, your surname is Gu. What about her? Her? Her name is Ning Yue, of course her surname is Ning. After Guyan finished speaking, he suddenly understood, brother, you. Gu Liang said, the Gu family is cooperating with the Sidhu family, why should I marry a woman named Ning? But Guyan was a little confused, didn't Ning Yue be the most favored in Sidhu's house? No matter how favored she is, her surname is not Sidhu. Such a marriage is meaningless. Gu Liang saw it clearly, lowered his head and took a sip of coffee, and said slowly, the Gu family also has a favored nephew. Qi Xiao and Qi Jin are here in front of the old man, they are all more favored than you, but if I want to pull them out to marry, does it count? After hearing this, Guyan was in a dilemma, then what should we do? The cooperation has been discussed long ago, and Sidhu Yan has no daughter, so even if one is born right now, it will be too late. Why are you worrying about them? Gu Liang laughed softly, not paying attention. Go, I'm sure you'll be busy for a while with the aftermath. Guyan nodded, turned, and went out. When he walked out of the room, he suddenly thought of Mu Zi's earrings, and wanted to ask, but felt that it was such a trivial matter, and he seemed to be whining by asking all kinds of things. Anyway, the elder brother will return it to Miss Mu. He thought so, and walked away. Mu Zi stayed in the hospital for only 2 days. Her wound showed no signs of infection, and she just needed to change the dressing on time and take care of it slowly. Mu Zi didn't come home for 2 days, Bai Wei was going crazy. If Murong Cheng hadn't called and said that Mu Zi had fallen and was recuperating in the hospital, Bai Wei would have almost called the police. But when asked about which hospital Mu Zi lived in, Murong Cheng refused to say, and only said that he took care of Mu Zi, so that Bai Wei could rest assured. How could Bai Wei feel at ease? If this matter had been put in the past, Bai Wei might have been foolish enough not to take it to heart, but after witnessing the ambiguity between her son and daughter, Bai Wei was so nervous that she made dozens of calls a day, wishing she could blow up Murong Cheng's cell phone up. After finally looking forward to Mu Zi's return, Bai Wei hugged her daughter and looked left and right, tears almost fell down. Going to celebrate a friend's birthday, how could you get hurt? Bai Wei asked with red eyes. Regarding the matter of the Gu family, the finishing work was done very well, and the concealment was seamless, and no news was revealed to the outside world. Including those guests who came to the banquet, they all received the heavy gifts from the Gu family, so naturally their mouths were tightly shut. Mu Zi deliberated, and explained, it's just, the atmosphere was so good at the time, everyone was playing a little crazy, then, I accidentally stepped on my skirt and tripped, then, there happened to be a lump on the ground, the sharp stone just hit my leg. Why are you so careless? Bai Wei was worried. Mom helped you to lie on the bed. Murong Cheng said, Mom, don't make trouble, just use your strength to help Zizi, don't the two of you roll down the stairs. He put Muse's crutch aside, bent down, and picked her up. Bai Wei was stunned, and watched him carry Muse upstairs, unable to utter a word. After being stunned for a long time, I heard my son shouting from upstairs, Mom, is there any food in the kitchen? We haven't eaten yet. Ah, oh, it will be ready soon. Bai Wei hurried to the kitchen, forgetting to question her son for a while. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 662. In the evening, Murong Cheng and Bai Wei had their first quarrel between mother and son. You can't sleep in your sister's room, Bai Wei was so angry that her eyes turned red. In the past, Murong Cheng's attitude towards Bai Wei was always coaxed and concealed, but now that he has to take care of Mu Zi, he will inevitably go in and out of her room frequently, and it would be too cumbersome to find reasons every time. He insisted on his point of view this time, and never backed down. Zizi has trouble walking now. What should I do if I want to go to the bathroom at night? What should I do if I'm thirsty and want to drink water? Who will pick up her quilt if it falls on the floor? Who will help her when it rains in the middle of the night? She closes the window. Mu Zi originally wanted to say that she was fine, but hearing Murong Cheng being so comprehensive, her heart felt inexplicably sore and swollen. She glanced at Bai Wei secretly, and lowered her head guiltily. Bai Wei said, I take care of Zizi. Can you hold her? Murong Cheng interrupted Bai Wei mercilessly, with a sharp tone. Mom, stop making trouble. What if Zizi falls with your strength and the wound is opened? School will start soon. Do you want Zizi to go to school with a cane? Bai Wei's chest rose and fell rapidly, and she pointed at Murong Cheng with a trembling hand. She was so angry that she could hardly speak. Well, then you can't sleep in the Zizi room. This is too much. Murong Cheng said, Mom, go to sleep quickly, don't make any trouble. Bai Wei's eyes glistened with tears, the tears turned and turned, and finally bowed her head suddenly, turned and ran out of the room. Mu Zi looked at Murong Cheng with a complicated expression, and whispered, You shouldn't call Mom like that. Sooner or later, she will accept it. Murong Cheng frowned. He cleaned up Muse's desk in twos and outs, placed all the books he often read by the bedside, and weighed the kettle on the table. The kettle was empty. Murong Cheng picked it up and prepared to go downstairs to fill a pot of tea. As soon as he walked to the door, he met Bai Wei, who had gone and returned. Bai Wei's eyes were red, as if she had cried, and she hugged the mattress and pillow in her arms. She ran in with her head buried, and spread the tatami mattress beside Mu Zi's bed without saying a word, apparently to let Murong Cheng make the floor. You sleep here. Bai Wei stood up after making the bed, stared at Murong Cheng, and said very emphatically, Don't mess around, don't close the door. Murong Cheng didn't continue to be angry with her this time, and nodded cooperatively, Okay. Bai Wei looked at Mu Zi, then at Murong Cheng, with a sad expression, a little bit like crying. Murong Cheng felt a headache, and pushed her to go out. Okay, it's late, you should take a rest, remember to stew beef bone soup for Zizi tomorrow morning. He was as strong and domineering as a bandit. Bai Wei couldn't hold back her son at all. She was pushed out tearfully, and repeatedly emphasized, Rong Cheng, you must not mess around. Zizi is your sister, you can't. I see. You have said it 100 times. I remember. She is my sister. If I don't take care of her, who will take care of her? Go to sleep. What did Bai Wei say again? And Mu Zi didn't hear the rest clearly, only knew that poor Bai Wei was pushed back to the room by Murong Cheng. Murong Cheng came back and looked at Mu Zi, who was on the bed. Both of them had helplessness in their eyes. It's okay, Mom will accept it sooner or later, Murong Cheng said. Mu Zi was silent. He acts too arrogantly, and ordinary people really can't stand it. Now that he wants Bai Wei to accept their relationship, he still doesn't know what kind of process he will go through. It was already late at night. Murong Cheng was lying on the ground beside the bed. There was only one dimly lit lamp in the room, which was warm and quiet. Perhaps it was because she had been lying in the hospital for too long. Mu Zi closed her eyes for a long time, but still did not feel sleepy. Zizi Murong Cheng called her in a low voice, "Can you fall asleep without me holding you?" Muzi I scolded him, "Smelly shameless." But the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly, his heart was sweet and greasy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 663. There was a smile in Murong Cheng's voice, "You can really sleep." Muzi I ignored him, pretended to be asleep, lying on the bed silently. After a while, she heard a slight rustling sound, as if Murong Cheng had turned over, and then the hand she placed on the edge of the bed was gently held by him. Muzi I didn't move, she murmured softly, "What are you doing? You're not sleeping yet." Murong Cheng said, "I can't sleep without holding you." Slick tongue Muzi I snorted softly, "Say it as if you haven't slept before." "Can that be called sleeping alone?" Murong Cheng argued forcefully, "At best, it can be regarded as lying down with eyes closed. You must know, sleep is a verb." "Shut up," Muzi I suppressed her voice and interrupted him in embarrassment, already foreseeing the next direction of this conversation. Murong Cheng smiled, squeezed her palm, and really shut up. His palms were broad and his fingers were slender. The temperature in his palms was warm, making her feel at ease. Muzi I lay quietly on the bed, listening to the monotonous chirping of insects outside the window, and slowly, finally fell asleep. This night Muzi I slept peacefully. She didn't know that Bai Wei tossed and turned and woke up 3 or 5 times in the night, afraid that her son who was out of tune would do something wrong. Not wanting to wake Muzi I up, Bai Wei just stood at the door and took a few glances. Seeing that her son was indeed sleeping on the floor, she was relieved, but thinking of the unclear relationship between the two of them, her heart hung up again, feeling extremely helpless. She has never had any ideas, and in such a situation, she is helpless. The next day, Bai Wei was cooking beef bone soup in the kitchen. The milky white soup was bubbling and steaming. She stared at the pot in a daze. After an unknown amount of time, she heard voices outside. Bai Wei went out and saw Murong Cheng holding Muzi I downstairs. That intimate gesture made Bai Wei's blood surge again, and she couldn't even stand still. But Murong Cheng didn't notice it. He saw Bai Wei standing by the stairs and asked, "Mom, is the soup ready? I can smell the aroma." "It's almost ready." Bai Wei replied in a low voice, staring at Murong Cheng's hand on the crook of Muzi I's leg. In the hot summer, Muzi I was only wearing a set of Mickey home pajamas, with a sleeveless vest on top and pretty shorts on the bottom. Murong Cheng also didn't wear much, and the two of them were almost skin to skin. Bai Wei couldn't stop thinking about it. The siblings are so close. It was so intimate. Murong Cheng walked past her as if no one was there, carried Muzi I to the living room, placed him carefully on the sofa, completely ignoring the pained eyes of his mother. "Bring the crutch here," Muzi I said to him. Murong Cheng raised his eyebrows, and said disdainfully, "Why do you want a crutch? I'll hug you wherever you want to go, can the crutch be useful to me?" Muzi I was embarrassed, looked at Bai Wei who was not far away embarrassingly, and squeezed Murong Cheng's arm hard. "Could you be more careful with what you say?" She gritted her teeth, feeling like she had fallen asleep. Murong Cheng was completely broken in front of Bai Wei, without any cover-up. Murong Cheng sat down next to each other, wanting to take Muzi I into his arms. "Go and clean the bird rack," Muzi pushed him nervously, "Sisi's nest should be clean too." Murong Cheng can be shameless, but Muzi I still wants face. In front of Bai Wei, she really doesn't want to be too intimate with Murong Cheng. Bai Wei was very kind to her, she shouldn't poke her mother's heart like this, it would be too heartless. Fortunately, Murong Cheng was cooperative, and he really went to tidy up the pet nest. Muzi heaved a sigh of relief. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 664. Bai Wei brought the soup from the kitchen. The thick white beef bone soup was fragrant, skimmed off the oil, put some fine vermicelli in the soup, sprinkled with salt. It was very rich and delicious without over-seasoning. When Muzi lowered her head to drink the soup, Bai Wei stared blankly at her. Want to say something, but don't know what to say. Advised daughter to leave son? What's the use of this? Looking at Murong Cheng's posture, one can tell that Muzi is completely involuntary, and Murong Cheng insists on pestering her. What can she do? How should this go on? Brother and sister love rumors. How will people outside talk about them? Both Murong Cheng and Muzi will be ruined by public opinion. Especially Muzi. Women are naturally weak in this kind of thing, not to mention Muzi is only 17 years old. Murong Cheng will destroy her. The more Bai Wei thought about it, the more worried she became. She was careless at the beginning and caused Ruanli's death. Would she still want to kill Ruanli's daughter now? You have clearly made an oath that you will do your best to take care of Zizi. Why did it become like this? Her autism and eccentricity have caused her a lot of pain since she was a child. Now that she has finally recovered and her studies have improved, why is she being harmed by her son again? Bai Wei's mind was wandering, her whole brain was in a mess. When Musa lowered her head to drink the soup, she was also thinking about these things. It's strange to say that Bai Wei's personality is so traditional. Why did she deviate from the norm and stay with an old man? The whole day, Murong Cheng stayed at home to take care of Muzi, hugging her in front of Bai Wei, except when Muzi went to the toilet. They were almost inseparable. Bai Wei was so angry that she trembled, but she had nothing to do with her son. When Murong Ruo was still at home the next day, Bai Wei couldn't bear it anymore and asked, "Don't you need to go to the company?" In the past, Murong Cheng often did not go home for a long time on the grounds that the company was busy. "I'll go after she recovers," Murong Cheng replied. Bai Wei bit her lip and glanced at the two of them, picked up her bag, turned and went out. Muzi heard two bang bangs. The door had been gently closed, and her mood was extremely complicated. "Did we drive Mom away?" She sighed. "We should explain it to Mom." Murong Cheng said, "I'll talk to her again when Mom comes back." "Then you have to have a good chat." Musa squinted at him distrustfully. "Explain clearly, and don't deliberately anger her." "Understood. Go read your book, don't worry about it." "It's only a few days before the start of school, Muzi has to hurry up and read." She leaned on the sofa and read the Constitution and criminal law. Murong couldn't bear this. It was like hypnosis. After listening to it, he lay down on the sofa and fell asleep. Seeing him sleeping, Muzi couldn't help but want to laugh, thinking that he is really a bandit. Is listening to the law the same as listening to a mantra? Muzi continued to read for a while, feeling sleepy, and fell asleep next to Murong Cheng. After Bai Wei came back, as soon as she entered the door, she saw the picture of the brother and sister lying together taking an afternoon nap. The feeling in her heart was indescribable. Both of them are her treasures, and she was reluctant to beat and scold them since she was a child, so she committed such a wrong thing. Bai Wei let out a long sigh, sat down in silence, and took out the gold foil from the shopping bag. Fold the gold foil paper a few times, and then gently pull the two sides to form a three-dimensional small gold ingot. Bai Wei patiently folded the gold leaf ingots, and in a short while a mountain of ingots was built at her feet. The brothers and sisters woke up and saw their mother stacking ingots in the living room without saying a word, and there were still paper money and incense on the table. This situation is really weird. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 665. Murong Cheng walked over, picked up a piece of gold foil, and was about to take a look, when Bai Wei slapped the back of his hand. "Don't touch it without washing your hands," Bai Wei blamed. Murong Cheng withdrew his hand resentfully, and asked, "Mom, it's very popular, why did you go out and buy these?" Bai Wei lowered her head and folded the ingots. Her voice was indifferent. "Because I feel sorry for Zizi's mother, I bought some ingots and burned them for her, to give her peace of mind." The corner of Murong Cheng's mouth twitched. Is he that bad? Muzi looked at the thick stack of gold foil paper, and couldn't help asking, "Mom, how many ingots do you want to stack?" Bai Wei said, 1,000. "My brother and I will help you fold it." Muzi looked at Bai Wei's face and said cautiously, "Let's fold it together, so we can finish it quickly." The movements in Bai Wei's hands paused. She thought for a while, and nodded. Zi, come over and fold some, it's considered a filial piety. "I should also be filial, let me say hello to my mother-in-law," Murong Cheng said. Bai Wei stood up abruptly, her face turned pale with anger. You child, you don't know taboos when you speak. Can this be a joke? I've already let her down enough, are you trying to piss me off?" Murong Cheng wanted to say that he wasn't joking, that he really treated Ruan Li like a mother-in-law, but seeing Bai Wei was so angry, he had to shut up and say no more. Bai Wei didn't let him touch the ingot, saying that she was afraid that when it was burned later, Zizi's mother would think it was dirty and refuse to accept it. Murong Cheng had no choice but to say, "Then I'll go cook, right?" He is now half coaxing, half persuading, and half forced towards Bai Wei. After dismissing Murong Cheng, the mother and daughter stacked gold ingots together. While stacking, Bai Wei said to Muzi, "Before you were young, you were never asked to do these things. You have to learn to do them in the future. Every year on Qingming and Death Days, you must remember to burn paper and incense for your mother, or she's too cold underground." About Ruan Li, Bai Wei never kept Muzi from it. When he decided to adopt Muzi, the old man asked Bai Wei, "The child is so young, so he should raise him as his own, why let her know that his mother is dead?" How pitiful! Bai Wei felt cruel. For that man, Ruan Li did not hesitate to break with her family. If even her daughter did not recognize her, who would remember that there was such a person as Ruan Li in the world? Bai Wei hopes that after her death, there will be people in the world who will remember Ruan Li. However, Bai Wei's painstaking efforts were not understood by Xiao Muzi. Xiao Muzi only felt that she was abandoned by the world, and her personality became more and more distorted, and her withdrawn and surly personality made her suffer from bullying no matter at school or at home. Bullying aggravated her autism, such a vicious circle, and finally chose to give up her life. Muzi and Bai Wei stacked up 1,000 ingots. Most of them are stacked by Bai Wei, piled up in golden piles, which is really beautiful, but they will burn when caught in fire, and soon turn to ashes. After burning the ingots, Bai Wei asked Muzi to go back to the room first, and continued to burn the paper money coins by herself. When Muzi returned to the room, she turned her head to take a look, and saw Bai Wei was burning paper and crying, as if she was very sad. Muzi felt very uncomfortable, feeling almost overwhelmed with guilt, and really wanted to ask Murong Cheng why he arranged such a body for himself when he returned from a dead body. Was it intentional, or a coincidence? Leaning on crutches, she walked into the room slowly, and saw Murong Cheng approaching. "Where's mother?" Murong Cheng couldn't help asking, seeing that she was the only one returning. Muzi sighed, and replied, "Mom is crying." Murong Cheng heard the words and wanted to go out to persuade him, but was gently pulled by Muzi. "Don't go." Muzi looked outside the room and said in a low voice, "Let Mom stay alone for a while." Deep-rooted ideas cannot be changed with a few words of persuasion from them. Afterwards, Bai Wei can only change it by herself. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 666. Insects sang everywhere at night, and the silver-white moonlight shone into the house, reflecting the mottled shadows of carved roses on the windows, like a magnificent woodcut engraving painted on the floor, with clear black and white and lingering flowers. Musa turned sideways cautiously, and touched the crutch beside the bed. She sat up slowly, trying not to touch the wound on her thigh, and stood up with the help of crutches. In fact, she can no longer use crutches, but although the surface of the wound has healed, the flesh inside has not grown well. Once she walks, the muscles there will be involved, and the pain will be severe. Musa was very afraid of pain, so she insisted on using crutches. As soon as her feet touched the ground, the person sleeping under the bed woke up. "Where are you going?" Cheng opened his eyes. "Hush." Musa put her finger on her lips, motioning him to whisper, "I'm going downstairs to the living room." Cheng got up upon hearing this, silently picked her up, and went straight downstairs. He walked slowly, without making any sound, until he carried Musa to the living room downstairs, and then asked in a low voice, "What are you going to do?" Musa said, "I'll burn some paper for Aunt Ruan." She was used to calling Bai Wei's mother, and she couldn't open her mouth to call other women's mothers. Cheng was puzzled. "Why do you get up in the middle of the night to burn paper?" Even so, he helped her take all the remaining paper money and ingots, and then carried her out. Musa burned the paper, and Cheng accompanied him. "Don't stand here." Musa pointed to the distance, "Go over there and wait." Cheng was displeased. "Am I not allowed to see people, or am I not allowed to see ghosts?" He has been disliked by his own mother for the past few days, he is already frustrated, and now he is disliked by Musa again. Cheng can't bear it. Musa didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and stretched out her hand to push him. "Hurry up, I'll talk to Aunt Ruan for a while, I'll be embarrassed if you stay here." Knowing that Musa was shy, Cheng felt a little more balanced. "Don't take too long," Cheng said, and then walked a little further. Tonight's moon is big and bright, and the moonlight is cold, reminding Musa of the night when she died. She burned a lot of paper money for Ruan Li. "I'm really sorry. I'm not your daughter. Musa is no longer alive. She, like you, chose to commit suicide. She had a bad life and lived in pain every day. Death may be a blessing to her." This kind of relief Musa whispered, whispering, "Bai Wei treats her very well, but they don't have the fate of mother and daughter. I hope people will have a next life and don't suffer any more in the next life." The firelight reflected on her face, flickering on and off, setting off a gloomy and sad look. She told Ruan Li intermittently everything she knew about Musa. Even if she knew, it was impossible for Ruan Li to hear it. After burning the paper for Ruan Li, she burned another pile of paper money. This time it was for the original Musa. "I have kept all your things well, but I washed off the paintings on the wall. That was too scary. The man you liked accidentally fell to his death, and died under the window of your room. Unfortunately, I didn't know you earlier, and I don't know what your wish is, otherwise I should try my best to help you realize your wish. It seems too late to say this now." She babbled a lot, until the fire was about to go out, and she said, "I'm sorry with great regret. Sorry for taking up your body. I'm sorry, I want to rewrite your life." Cheng came over and hugged her, with a harsh tone, "Everyone is dead, what else is there to talk about, and people may not be able to hear a word after a long talk." "You don't understand," Musa said earnestly, "some things are actually for myself to hear. Only when I say them will I feel at ease. If you do something wrong and say sorry, it seems that you can be forgiven in your heart. This may be the hypocrisy of human nature. Mu Zi rested her head on Murongcheng's chest, thinking, so I'm quite hypocritical. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 667. She is not a saint, and she has a dark side in her heart. She would be happy to be able to come back from the dead, occupying someone else's body. She would even have the idea of shirking responsibility. Murongcheng did it, it's none of my business. But no matter what, she replaced Mu Zi, this is an undoubted fact, so guilt always exists in my heart. This emotion is usually not obvious, but after Bai Wei mentioned Mu Zi's life experience, the guilt increased exponentially. Because she is not Mu Zi, Bai Wei's kindness to her is to make up for Mu Zi and Ruan Li, and it has nothing to do with her. After burning the paper today, she finally got some relief. After all, one has to live well, so as not to let down the life of Mu Zi, and not to let herself down. Murongcheng carried her back to the room to rest. Mu Zi felt that his hands were full of the smell of paper money, so he went to the bathroom to wash. Perhaps it was because her mind became open and bright. After she washed her hands, she deliberately rubbed Murongcheng's clothes with her wet hands. Murongcheng was keen, and turned sideways to avoid it, and Mu Zi took the water from the tap to tease him again. Burning paper burns your spirits. Murongcheng sensed that she was different, and grabbed her dripping hand. I think you don't want to sleep tonight. Sleep? Mu Zi hooked his neck and said with a smile, you hug me to sleep. Little pig is too heavy to hold. Murongcheng deliberately disliked her. Mu Zi pursed her mouth, and immediately showed her grievance. Murongcheng carried her back to the room a few steps, put her on the bed and bent down. I'll sleep on you, okay? Mu Zi giggled under him. Murongcheng took advantage of the situation and kissed her lightly. The moonlight spread like frost, reflecting the whole room, and Mu Zi could see the shadows of the two on the wall when he turned his head. She couldn't help pandering to him. She wanted to get closer to him, a little closer, so that those two shadows would merge into one, like twigs, inseparable for life. Murongcheng's breathing was a little messy, and he kissed her more deeply. His hands also penetrated into his clothes, rubbing against the skin that was more delicate and smooth than snow satin. However, the beauty only lasted for a minute. Bai Wei stood stiffly at the door of the room, waking up the two lingering on the bed. Bai Wei watched all this helplessly. The blood on her face faded bit by bit. She didn't know that the relationship between Murongcheng and Mu Zi had developed to this point. This step. Mom. Murongcheng stood up in surprise, and was about to say something when Bai Wei's eyes welled up with tears. She raised her hand and slapped him hard. She's your sister. Bai Wei burst into tears. She's your sister. She's my sister. Bai Wei has never hit Murongcheng. She is a mother who habitually dotes on her children. No matter how much Murongcheng fooled around outside, she never beat him. Seeing the red marks on Murongcheng's face, Mu Zi was terrified, and wanted to explain, but was stopped by Murongcheng. Murongcheng was also angry. He held Mu Zi's face, kissed her hard, then turned to Bai Wei and asked, is she my sister? Have you ever seen a brother kiss a sister like this? We are not related by blood at all. Mom. Why can't you accept it? Bai Wei cried angrily, you grew up together. Murongcheng didn't listen at all. He turned around and walked to the table, opened the drawer, took out a document from it, and stuffed it forcefully into Bai Wei's hands. When Zizi is admitted to the Judicial Training Institute, she will go to Jingling to study. 2 years is enough for everyone to forget about the adopted daughter of the Mu family. When she comes back after graduation, she will use this new identity. Murongcheng said, I specially ask someone to find her a family with the surname Ruan is worthy of the dead Aunt Ruan. That document was Mu Zi's new identity proof. Bai Wei pinched those pieces of paper, trembling all over. She didn't expect her son to be so tough. Even a new identity is ready. Mom, what are you dissatisfied with me? Murongcheng said, I love her. I want to marry her. You. Bai Wei's eyes darkened for a while, and she was finally so angry by her own son that she passed out. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 668. Murongcheng sent Bai Wei to the hospital. Mu Ziyi was worried at home, so he limped along with a cane. Bai Wei's body is fine. She woke up slowly in the hospital, but she refused to look at Murongcheng again. Murongcheng also refused to give in, and the mother and son fell into a cold war. Mu Ziyi accompanied Bai Wei in the hospital. Bai Wei asked her, Zizi, do you want to find your father? Mu Ziyi was stunned for a moment, not understanding why Bai Wei mentioned this suddenly. Your father is in Jingling, I'll send you to find him. Okay, Bai Wei persuaded her softly with a tired face, you are still young and don't understand how important a reputation is to a woman. Your mother and I are here. You stumbled over this, and I really don't want to see you repeat the same mistakes. Mu Ziyi was silent for a while, then asked, Mom, is my father married? Bai Wei hesitated, then nodded, he's married. Then what is my identity if I go to him? Mu Ziyi said in a low voice, is it an illegitimate daughter before marriage? Mom, it's been so many years, he hasn't come to me, and I don't want to recognize him. The age of fatherly love. Bai Wei felt sad, and looked at Mu Ziyi with red eyes. Mom doesn't want you to go to Jingling, but mother can't just watch your brother ruin you. You are only 17 years old. You will go to the Judicial Training Institute and become a prosecutor. Your life should not be stained like this. Mu Ziyi smiled helplessly, Mom, you have so little confidence in brother. He's never been determined. He hasn't had a girlfriend for more than a week. Mentioning Murongcheng, Bai Wei's tears welled up again, drinking and gambling every day. If I say a few more words, he thinks I'm nagging. I don't expect him to have great promise, but he shouldn't treat you like this. Mu Ziyi couldn't laugh or cry. To blame can only be blamed on Murongcheng's too successful image of a dandy, which has already formed a deep-rooted impression in Bai Wei's heart, which is hard to erase in a short period of time. I don't know if this is self-inflicted. Mom, my brother is very kind to me, you can trust him once. Mu Ziyi smiled awkwardly, I was originally just the adopted daughter of the Mu family. When I was 18, I wanted to change my name. Someone knows about our brother-sister relationship. Is he just coaxing you with such flattering words? Bai Wei only felt that her daughter was dazzled by love, and said earnestly, your mother was also like this back then. She believed the man's words. What happened? She left happily, and finally came back alone with nothing. Not even a shelter. Mu Ziyi said, however, if she hadn't gone with that man back then, I'm afraid she would regret it for the rest of her life, right? Mom, women in love are about the same. If you don't hit the wall and don't look back, just let me try it once. Bai Wei stared blankly at her daughter, not knowing how to persuade her. Mu Ziyi asked Bai Wei softly again, have you ever regretted it? You were so beautiful, if you hadn't met Mr. Mu, you would have been able to marry well and become a wealthy wife. A lifetime of fine clothes and fine food. Bai Wei bit her lip and shook her head, I don't regret it. Mu Ziyi smiled slightly, held Bai Wei's hand, and said softly, Mom, I am the same, no matter how difficult the future will be, I will not regret being with him. Bai Wei couldn't help shaking when she heard this. She was silent for a long time, and finally let out a weak sigh, go, call your brother in. Mom, thank you. Mu Ziyi could not help hugging Bai Wei, you are so kind to me. Bai Wei was helpless, and patted Mu Ziyi's head, go, slow down, your legs are not healed yet. Mu Ziyi smiled and walked out of the ward leaning on crutches. Murongcheng was still waiting outside. showing an irritable and frantic state. Knowing that Bai Wei was willing to see him, Murong Chen knew that there was room for negotiation, so he hurried in. I only have one request. Sitting on the hospital bed, Bai Wei said seriously, until Zizi turns 18, you are not allowed to have any physical contact with her. Murong Cheng's face immediately darkened. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 669. Murong Chen hadn't said anything yet. Seeing his downcast face, Bai Wei immediately said in displeasure, if you just want to take advantage of it and enjoy yourself, get rid of it as soon as possible. If two people want to be together, they can't even stand this little test. Why are you talking about love? Go and learn what respect is. Bai Wei is soft-tempered, but she won't budge in this matter. Mu Ziyi gave Murong Cheng a wink, telling him to agree quickly, so as not to spoil mom's body with anger. Murong Cheng thought about it. It's already August, and it's only half a year since Mu Ziyi turned 18, he gritted his teeth and endured it, and it's over. What's more, Murong Cheng can't touch Mu Ziyi, but Huarong can. Murong Cheng's mind was active, a smile finally appeared on his face, and he asked, what else do you want? You are not allowed to sleep in Zizi's room, you are not allowed to be too intimate with her in front of outsiders, you are not allowed to take her out without permission, and you are not allowed to damage her reputation. Every time Bai Wei said something, Murong Cheng's face sank a little. Finally, Bai Wei added, I didn't care about you before, I don't know if you have any women outside, you are not allowed to fool around outside again, otherwise, I will send Zizi to Jingling. Murong Cheng's complexion had darkened to the bottom. This is her biological mother, and every word is protecting Mu Ziyi. Murong Cheng can only swallow his anger and agree to everything, feeling the pain of ceding land and paying compensation in his heart. With such an agreement, the atmosphere between mother and child finally eased, but Bai Wei looked at Murong Cheng with vigilance and lingering anger. It's impossible not to get angry, but when she thought of Murong Cheng hooking up with Mu Ziyi without her knowing, she would get angry. How old is Mu Ziyi? What can a 17-year-old girl know? At such a youthful age, the love affair that was teased was just beginning. How could she foolishly deceive her heart? Just like me back then, like Ruan Li back then. Women, no matter what age they are, once they fall in love, they are like moths to a flame. They know that it is a dead end, but they are still desperate. Bai Wei hoped that Mu Ziyi would have a good result, not like her and Ruan Li, one of them wasted years and the other lost his life. They stayed in the hospital until noon. When all the examination reports came out, the doctor said that Bai Wei's body was fine, but she should try to be calm in the future and not get too excited and angry. Bai Wei sighed faintly, glanced at Murong Cheng, and said, I hope. Murong Cheng's expression was extremely ugly. Mu Ziyi suppressed a smile and shrugged her shoulders. They drove home. Murong Cheng drove, Mu Ziyi and Bai Wei sat in the back seat. Mu Ziyi hugged Bai Wei's arm. She was in a good mood, chatting with Bai Wei. Mom, what was my biological mother like? She asked. She is very beautiful. Bai Wei's eyes were slightly bent, and her smile flowed. She is amazingly beautiful, and people will never forget it when they see her. At that time, many literati in Xinjiang wrote poems for her one after another. Everyone adores her. Mu Ziyi smiled and said, no wonder I'm so beautiful, so it's because of my good genes. Bai Wei laughed, and tapped Mu Ziyi's forehead, are you beautiful? You have inherited 3 points from her at most. There was a slight pause in her voice, and then she smiled and sighed, with her 3 points of beauty, you will be beautiful for the rest of your life. You probably look like your father. There is such a beautiful person in the world. Muzi I cupped her face, intentionally making Bai Wei happy. I feel like a fairy already, so how beautiful is she? I don't believe it, Mom, do you have a photo? Bai Wei couldn't laugh when she heard the words. She sighed softly. It's gone, it's all burned, she said. Since she has forgotten each other, why bother remembering her, and asked me to burn all her things, leaving nothing behind. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 670. After returning home, Bai Wei found Ruan Li's suicide note from her private box and handed it to Muzi. This suicide note can be said to be the only proof that Ruan Li ever existed in this world. The letter paper was slightly yellowed, but it was very smooth, and it was obviously well preserved by Bai Wei. Muzi sat alone in the room and read the letter. Ruan Li wrote beautifully with a pen, which was graceful and powerful, without any weakness, and there was a hidden sharpness in the stroke of the pen. Looking at her handwriting, Muzi could imagine what a proud and beautiful woman this is. Sometimes, there is nothing wrong with arrogance. Only a little bit of arrogance in one's bones leads to a chic life. Besides, Ruan Li came from a famous family and studied with a famous teacher. She has the capital to be proud. It's just a pity that I couldn't get through the level of love characters. The suicide note only had one page, and there was a gloomy tone between the lines. Even so, it could be seen that the writing was elegant and the rhetoric was quite beautiful. Ruan Li explained the funeral in the letter, without showing the slightest memory of the world. She couldn't wait to seek relief, and seemed to be suffering from depression. There are a few places in the letter that vaguely seem to mention that man, but they always start at the beginning, and then turn to other places in the next sentence, and deliberately avoid mentioning it. I don't know if this is a painful cover-up. She asked Bai Wei to scatter her ashes into the Qingjiang River, willing to flow into the sea with the river, to be alone and not to be burdened by fame, and at the end of the letter, she mentioned her newly born daughter, with only one sentence, I'm useless, I'm sorry for her. After reading it, Muzi had mixed feelings in her heart. She could feel how hopeless Ruan Li was when she wrote this letter, otherwise she would not have described insignificant things in detail, but deliberately concealed or briefly mentioned the most important lover and child. Covering scars is an instinct of human beings to protect themselves. Muzi put away the letter, and decided to go to Jiangxi another day to get back those things that belonged to little Muzi, so that the mother and daughter's belongings could be put together. It's actually very embarrassing to think about it. The mother and daughter bid farewell to the world in a tough and decisive way, and the stubbornness in their bones is exactly the same. During dinner, Bai Wei took a red embroidered purse and gently placed it in front of Muzi. Mom, what is this? Muzi looked familiar. She untied the knot, revealing a jadeite bracelet, which was emerald green and moist and transparent. Muzi suddenly realized, no wonder it looks familiar, isn't this the heirloom that Bai Wei planned to give away last time? He said it was going to be passed on to his daughter-in-law, but his son broke up with the girl in a few days. Unexpectedly, after going around, the bracelet came into her hands. Bai Wei slipped the Peikui jade bracelet into Muzi's hands, making a slender wrist even more radiant, white, and delicate. It's just that the bracelet on Muse's wrist immediately seemed to be an eyesore. Without knowing it, Bai Wei untied the bracelet, and said with a smile, Zizi's wrist is thin, and it will look better when she wears it for 2 more years. Muzi was very proud, raised her wrist and shook Murong Cheng, and asked him, does it look good? Murong Cheng nodded solemnly, well, it looks good. Hook her legs under the table. Muzi glared at him angrily, but he didn't act too aggressively, he was quite pitiful. Muzi was very kind, let him enjoy himself. Bai Wei didn't know the undercurrents under the table, but she noticed the red string on Murong Cheng's wrist, and then saw the red string she had just untied from Muzi's wrist, her mood suddenly became complicated. These two people, when did they get together? Alas, evil fate.